to the Bayview Podcast with hosts Andrew Clark and Paige Emery. This is designed to be a discussion on all things life and faith. We hope this serves as a weekly resource and encouragement to you.
What's going on, everybody? It is your host, Andrew Clark, back with another episode of the Bayview Podcast, and joined, as always, by the one and only Paige Emery.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Hey, good to be with everybody here today. How you doing, man?
Good. Just kind of in the winter holiday grind, but besides that, doing all right.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
At the time of recording this, I don't know when this is going to be released, but yeah, we've got snow on the ground, and it's just kind of grinding into that holiday season, which I love. I love the holiday atmosphere, and I love all that. And
yeah, it's fast paced. That's a good time.
It is. My radio is tuned into Christmas music on silent radio. I got the Holly station rolling, so
Sweet.
just listening to it all. So it's been good, and yeah. So I'm just enjoying all that.
Good.
And but we love this time as well. Just each week getting to come and spend some time with all of you. Really appreciate the listeners. Appreciate the feedback. It's cool to hear from some of you and just things you're enjoying about the podcast. Suggestions. We've had some of those come in like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Send those in. You can email us. You can comment even on any of the platforms, and we do read those.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear that. I think we've probably talked about this before, but like people actually are listening, even if it's like one or two people. Like it's kind of like we're not just sitting here talking to mics to ourselves.
No.
So
we have grown to dozen of followers. No,
killing it.
It's been cool. We're killing it. No, it's been cool. Actually, hearing how far out it's spread, so it's been really good. So
awesome.
Love any opportunity we have to have guests on the podcast. And this was a suggestion given to us a while back. We already had it on our hit list, but to take time to have different members of our team here at Bayview come on the podcast to hear just a little bit about their story, who they are. Many of our listeners attend Bayview. A lot of you we know don't. But that's who some of these guests are. These are people that are part of our team here that really make all of this possible. What God is doing here at Bayview, which is just an incredible story of God at work.
Yeah. But
He's also using some really cool people to do it. And so this episode, we are super excited to have with us the worship leader, the main worship director here at Bayview Church. She is the mega talented, famous recording artist. Anyway, we're super happy to have Paige Emery with us here.
Hello.
Welcome
excited
to the
to be
podcast.
here.
Are you?
Thank
Are you
you.
excited, or are you just faking it?
No, I am excited. Ever since I found out I was going to be on this morning, I've been excited.
Ever since this morning, which is funny.
After a couple minutes of processing it.
Well, we scheduled this with your husband, who is also, i.e., our producer, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? So 2 weeks ago, he knew. Is that the normal pattern of communication?
It depends.
It depends. Was it forgetfulness of him telling you, or did he not tell you because he didn't want you to feel anxiety for 2 weeks?
I don't know. Guess we may never know.
We never know. All right. Well, you've been here on staff at Bayview for how many years now? Is it 3 years?
No, it'll be 2 years. Just 2 years. No, I'm sorry. It's been 2.5 years.
2.5 years. It'll be 3 years this coming spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you started in a different role than where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys came on staff. That would be the spring of 2021.
Yep.
And so tell us a little bit of what you do now. What's your role here?
Yeah, so I am the worship leader for the modern service, and so I organize our band, like all the volunteers for that. I schedule the music for each week. I've been planning like the Christmas Eve service, some of like the bigger events that we have. I feel like there's just like a lot of like little things that kind of go into it, so it's kind of hard to like give a good list of things, but that's kind of like the basis. And I lead worship just about every Sunday, unless I'm going on vacation and then I have someone fill in. But
and we allow that one Sunday a year.
Yeah. I get my one Sunday a year.
There you go. Well, you are super. I mean, you're so uber talented, and
Thank you.
it's feedback we get on a regular basis,
Mhm.
without a doubt. You've brought a lot of new people into that mix, a lot of younger faces
Mhm.
getting into that vibe, which has been fun. Andrew's
Yeah.
wife, Nicole, is one of our
Mhm.
not just worship team members. She's kind of our backup worship
Yeah.
leader when you're gone, and
Yeah,
she's
she's
uber
awesome.
talented as well.
For sure.
So that's been a big deal.
Yeah.
That wasn't your first job here. Your first job here
Mm-mm.
was doing what?
I was an administrative assistant.
Okay.
So, and then I transitioned into church administrator, like, I don't know, 6-7 months after that. And I was in that position for just over a year before transitioning into worship leading. So
And you loved that job.
I did. Yeah. I actually had a hard time giving that job up to transition to this one because I did enjoy it a lot. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So music always been a part of your life?
Yeah. So ever since I can remember, I've loved singing. One like memory, like the earliest memory that sticks into my mind is my parents bought me a karaoke machine for Christmas when I was 5 years old. And so it was super cool. I had like the CD player, so you could play music as you're singing. It had, I think, 2 microphones that hooked into it. So it was fun. Like when I had friends over, we'd use it. And my parents definitely got their money's worth out of it. So yeah, I love that. And I kind of I just enjoyed singing. I was in like the church children's choir, did some like solos for that. Did some of the special music when that was a thing. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And I kind of knew like from a really young age, like I want to do something in music. I knew I wanted to be a singer in some way. And so I did also start playing piano when I was 6, but unfortunately I didn't love it. I didn't like to practice. And so I never got really good at it. Looking back now, I really wish that I would have put the time into it, but I was sick. So I try to, give myself grace for that. So I did that kind of off and on for several years. And then when I was 13, excuse me, when I was 13, I picked up guitar. So I was in youth group, and the guy who was leading worship for youth group at the time, he played multiple instruments, and he was gracious enough to teach me how to play guitar. So for like an hour before youth group each week, he would, give me a guitar lesson. And then I started playing in the youth group band and leading worship a little bit there. And then I do it some on Sunday mornings. And so, yeah, it was just something that I loved to do from a really young age. And yeah, God just put people in my life to kind of like the person who taught me how to play guitar. And they've had a big impact in my life that they probably don't even realize. So I guess shout out to Josh. First of all, you probably aren't going to listen to this, but thank you. And also just an encouragement that you may not know what impact you're having in somebody's life at the time. So
that's cool. Do you remember, cause I don't know if I'm not a musician, but I remember the first Sunday morning message I ever gave and the absolute train wreck that was.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first time you led worship for big church on a Sunday?
I don't remember the very first time I led worship, but I do remember the first time I played piano in front of people. It's when I was 6 years old, and the song was "O Come All Ye Faithful." So it was around Christmas time, and I was in Awana, and my piano teacher was the pastor's wife of the church that I went to Awana at. And so she had me practice this song, get it all ready, and I was going to play it at Awana. And so I did, and it was an absolute train wreck. It was, I had practiced it and I had it perfect. And then I got there and I was so nervous and I just butchered the entire thing. And I was so embarrassed. That's probably the most embarrassing story I have.
And there's no way to hide messing up when you're playing piano.
Oh, no.
It's not like when you're singing and you forget the lyrics, you can fill it. When you're butchering piano, it just sounds like...
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're when you're not in a band, you're just the only person playing. Everybody knew. So I was very embarrassed, but...
well, we've all been there.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't picture yourself like the 6-year-old Paige before Sunday mornings anymore, do you?
No, I don't. No, thankfully I don't.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We've I don't know if this is going to air before or after. We had your husband on as a guest as well, and he was sharing a little bit how you all met in college. Actually, you were in college. He was not in college yet.
Yep.
And his cousins had brought you to their church with the ulterior motive for you to get to see him, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't even know if that was the motive, but then it was once I got to the church and I met Brock, it was that became the motive.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. So you guys got married. You've got
Uh-huh.
2 awesome kids.
Yep.
2
little boys.
little boys.
Yeah, keep us on our toes.
That's right. That's right. Just to connect all the dots for you is Paige's husband is my oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
So Paige is my granddaughter and
My
daughter-in-law. Wow. So
That was
Paige is my
weird.
granddaughter. So this got super weird. No, anyway, it's all connected. So, hey, I've got a cold. I'm on a lot of cold medicine right now. Back off. You're lucky I'm saying anything coherent. So I know the story, but I don't know that I've ever sat down and had you just tell the story. So kind of rewind back a little over a year ago. Coming up on a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Our current worship pastor just felt like it was time for him to shift into a different season of life and step away from full-time worship leading or doing that as a vocation. We begin the search. You are here. You're on staff. You have filled in multiple times. People just raved whenever you would lead worship. We put out the word that we're starting to look for a new worship pastor. I'm getting emails on the daily. Just hire Paige. Just hire Paige. Just hire Paige. I'm like, I'm trying. But you and I talk. You loved your job. You loved what you're doing. And you weren't sure that was the right season. And we were good with that. You and I were both good with that.
Yeah.
So talk us through, how are you the worship leader now?
Yeah. So, I don't remember when exactly, like, I started hearing about, like, comments people were making or when you maybe presented it to me, but I know it was probably a good couple months of me saying, no, like, now's not the good time. My kids are too young. That's just too much on a Sunday morning with them. I had all these reasons. And then I led worship on Easter Sunday, and it was like the couple days after that, I got so many people like in my ear saying, you should be the next worship leader. Or I think you were telling me, Chris, that you had people emailing you. And it was just kind of this constant thing of just hearing this over and over again. And so it kind of made me like stop and be like, okay, like, is God trying to tell me something? Because sometimes that's just how it is. Like, you keep hearing the same thing over and over again. It's like, okay, God, like I get it. And so Brock and I both had been on the same page of like, no, it's just not good timing. And honestly, I didn't feel like I was equipped, I guess. Like, even though like I had the degree, I guess I didn't go into that part that I went to Grace and I had a degree in music for worship leading. But I just didn't feel like I had, what I needed. I didn't feel confident in it. It was something I really enjoyed doing, but I was like, no, it's just not good timing. I thought maybe sometime down the road, but I really just enjoyed filling in. But then after, those couple of months and those couple of days specifically, there was just one evening in the middle of that week that Brock and I sat down, and we hadn't said, hey, let's chat about this tonight. It just kind of came up, and we both just realized like, okay, I think God is telling us that this is what I'm supposed to do. And so, it was a total God thing. Cause like I said, I was not open to it. I enjoyed what I was doing already. I didn't want to give that job up. But once I realized like, okay, this is what God wants me to do. Like, I was nervous about it, but, I knew that was what he was calling me to do, and I just needed to be obedient to that. And so I said, yes, I took the job. And it's just been really cool. Like, all of the things I think, Chris, in a conversation you'd had with Brock that he told me about was that, you were saying like, sometimes you have to look at, all the things that you're seeing as, walls that are kind of like preventing you from doing what you need to do, are just obstacles that you need to work around or get over. And so all of the excuses that we had, we realized like, okay, there is a solution to that. And so just kind of putting all the pieces together, like he always does in my life, God just opens doors in ways that I don't see coming and couldn't imagine. And so he definitely did that with this position. And so I was a little afraid when I started, but once I did, like I just felt peace. And honestly, like I feel so much purpose. Like I feel fulfilled doing this. Like when I started doing it, I was like, okay, this is what I was made to do. And so like I said, I loved the job that I had before, and I definitely see God's hand in that. Like I know why he had me in that position. Like I do feel like being in administrative positions really prepared me well just to be an organized leader, to work well with people. And so I definitely see that. And I was content in that, but just being in this, it's like, okay, like this is what I was made to do. And I just feel so much purpose in that. And so it's just been really cool to see how God has just done all of that and worked through all of that. So yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And I think even that mindset sometimes when we're like, oh no, I can't. Oh no, I don't want to. Oh no. Like some of that I think is tied up in anxiety and that's, I think those are all real things, but I've just seen time and time again, even just in my own life where it's like that initial thought of, I can't. And like you said, everything, you just can name all the walls, all the reasons. Yeah. And it's like, man, sometimes just like stepping back or taking that deep breath and being like, is it really a wall or am I allowing whatever to make the decision for me? What was that? I mean, you kind of talked a little bit. What was that process like? I mean, did you guys had the conversation? Did you like A, B, C through it of like, how are we going to do this? Or was it just, let's just see what happens?
Yeah, kind of. No, it was like, we kind of, laid out the reasons that we had, and it was like, well, here's the solution to that. And here's the solution to that. And one of them, which it's kind of funny. One thing I was like, I'm just not good with the tech stuff. And Brock's like, hello, like I'm the tech guy. So
that's literally
that's
my
not a
job.
problem. Yeah. And so, so that was like a big thing for me. But yeah, it was just kind of like laying out, but like for everything, it was like, okay, like, well, there is a solution to that. There is a solution to that. And so, I feel like God was probably watching us and being like, duh, like,
I think God watches us most of the time and says,
yeah, he's like,
always the
solutions were right there this whole time. Like, about time you got the hint.
I could never do the tech.
In.
I could never.
Are you kidding? Are you serious?
Yeah. But then I looked at it as like, all these things I didn't know. I got excited because I'm like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to like learn that. Like now it's my job. So like I get to learn how to be a better guitarist. I get to learn how to, do the tech things, and it's my job. Like it just made it kind of fun and exciting in that aspect. And it is also really cool that I get to work with my husband, like right alongside him. Like our jobs just go together really. And so I felt this way, like even like when we were in college, and I just feel like he really complements me well with like the strengths that I have and the strengths that he has. Like they just go well together because he makes up for in the areas that I lack in, I feel like. And so I feel like that's a cool God thing too.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You said something earlier too that I thought was really cool. It probably applies to all of us, and that you were doing the job before, and you were good at it, and you were fine with it. You're in a place where I'm fine with this. But now looking back, you recognize that God kind of had you. Well, you can be fine where you are, or you can experience the fulfillment of doing what I've called you and created you to do.
Yeah.
And how do you guys? I'm asking both of you guys this question. How many people do you think are missing out because they're settling to be just fine?
Probably
versus,
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say probably a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's really easy to. I literally just had this conversation with my wife where it's just like, how many times, kind of what Paige was saying, like, do you just say no, or like, it's you write it off before ever even just going down the path of the what if. Chris, you and I have talked about a little bit, and this is something that's I've been taught for many years now. It's like the idea of like, and Andy Stanley and some guys have kind of talked about this, like the howing the wow.
Yeah.
Like, so like we get into like a dream space in our life where like we can ask the question, what if? But so often when we ask what if, we follow it up instantly with, well, how?
Right.
And that just kills it. And this mentality more of like, why not dream? Why not think like, well, what would it look like? And remove yourself, remove the walls or the obstacles and say like, what am I really called to, or what does it really look like? And I think we're our own worst enemy half the time of a lot of those things where it's like, I could never do that because, and the list is a mile long. And then if we actually stopped and slowed down, you're like, oh man, there's a solution to all this. Like, my husband's the tech director. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, but I think and I think that's the devil. I mean, we can, without getting too spiritual, but that's kind of what this podcast is. Like, why would he want you to be fulfilled?
Yep.
Right.
He's going to do everything. He's going to tell you that, no, you can't. No, why would you? Don't think so. And that's the first thing that floods your mind. I have a couple buddies who talk about, you can have they're about to have a baby, and it's like they get the ultrasound and it's 100 good, and there's the one little like, well, it's different, right? The doctor just kind of makes the comment and moves on. What do you focus on?
Yeah, the little
question, and it's like that becomes our sole focus. And I think it's just so easy to hone in on the negative and to really shut down dreams before you've even actually like explored the dream.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think Satan uses our doubts, our fears, our need to understand or see solutions, whatever it is. There's so many things, turns obstacles into walls. And I think that we say no to God because we buy into there's just no way.
Sure, yeah.
And by our understanding and our viewpoint, well, there isn't a way. Of course there's not. By our understanding and our knowledge, there's not a path through this.
Yeah.
But God has never asked that of us. And I think that there's so many of us that we fail to experience. And this isn't prosperity gospel, right? So I'm not doing the whole health and wealth. If you've got enough faith that you'll never be sick and everybody drives big fancy cars and all that, that's garbage. But I am saying that God's promise to do good in and through you, to give you a purpose, to fulfill your purpose, that is rock solid. He wants to do that in your life. We just have to simply say, yes, I'm in. And I think so much of it comes back to that story of the little boy in his lunch when Jesus is preaching to the crowds. Excuse me. Whereas, he had this little lunch. The offering was little. The offering made no sense. But that's not what Jesus was asking. So,
yeah. It's a lot of times, I think it is that desire to control and to understand.
Yeah.
And it really kind of almost plays into the idea of like, and I'm going to say this term, and I always want to preface with, I hope you know what I mean when I say like it's the desire to be like God of our life, like almost like mini gods, like we control it, and it's like at the end of the day, like you are a terrible God, lowercase g. You're a terrible God. Like you trying to control, you trying to run, you trying to fully understand. It's like sometimes it is the idea of open-handed. All right, let's see what you got, God. Let's see what you actually have planned for this.
Yeah.
And just saying, okay, I don't see the way through it. I don't see how this is I don't see how this is going to make sense or going to work. But okay, here you go. And I think for you guys, you saw that quickly of like, well, it doesn't feel like it's the right season.
Right.
But now you're getting to experience that, that's what you said was so beautiful. You're getting to experience what it's like to live out this calling and the way he created you.
Yeah.
I think it's
really
just
cool.
so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And it's just been cool to see like all the things that I was worried about, just how that's all worked out. Like my kids, I didn't want them to grow up feeling like we were just always unavailable Sunday mornings. But my oldest son, Jace, he loves being here. He loves running around the church. He loves helping Pops make coffee in the morning. And so he has like his little routine. And so, yeah, he loves being here. And I love seeing how much joy he has being here. And I just feel like it's really, I'm hoping that it's really just giving him the sense of like how important church is and how great it is. And it's just been cool to see that he probably knows his way around this church better than I do at this point.
I loved this last Sunday, even after our second service had let out and crowds of people everywhere still. But in the middle of all of it, here comes your son, and here comes Andrew's son.
Yeah,
and they're just tearing around. They're just running. They're having a blast. Like, they own this place. Like, every staff or pastor's kid feels like they do.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like, that, to me, that's such a joyous sight to see them at home, to feel like, no, this is our house, too. This is our place. They're not being disrespectful. And I remember I was accused of that all the time, being a pastor's kid. I'm like, you're being disrespectful. You're crawling under the pews. You're climbing over the pews. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm 6. I know. You're eating all the communion wafers. Well, I'm hungry, too.
I was just sitting there.
But I love watching that young life. And Andrew and I both have grown up at being pastors' kids. I think it's important that, which is what you said, that there's the joyful experience and how important this is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool opportunity as well.
Yeah. It's really just been such a good fit for my family. Like, I didn't think it was, but it really has been, because it's freed up more time for me during the week, because Sunday mornings I'm here working. I don't know. It doesn't always feel like working, though, because I just enjoy what I'm doing. But yeah, so it's like freed up time during the week. So I have, more time I can be with my family, or more time I can, get things done that would otherwise maybe cut into family time. And so it's just been really good overall. So I'm thankful.
How do you balance if like a Sunday morning is, for us, and we talked about a little bit with Brock too, of like, it's kind of work.
Yeah.
Like the big W gets kind of slapped on Sunday mornings for us. So how have you found that preparing for worship, leading worship, like how are you staying connected with God? Like how are you continue to pour into your own personal relationship?
Yeah.
And what does that look like as you've kind of transitioned more into, Sunday's a work day?
Yeah. I feel like, music, I feel like it's probably obvious, is like the best way that I connect with God. And so whether it's, there's the obvious things like being in God's word and prayer, but also like, I think for some people they connect well with God through nature, or like there's so many different ways that we can connect with God and worship God and grow that relationship with him. And so for me, even though like music is what I do for my job, it's still music for me. So a lot of times I'll just put on like Christian music in the background when I'm at home, making dinner or doing chores or whatever. Like that's important for me, but also like I want that around my kids. Like I want them to like hear that truth. And so, I think it's different for everybody, but for me, it's still like through music. And I feel like even when I'm here and I'm practicing for a Sunday morning, like that's still time for me to worship. And so, I would say, and I hope, does that answer the question?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answers.
Okay, cool.
Oh, sorry,
Paige. We're going to end the podcast now because you missed that answer. So, no, that's perfect.
I mean, it is, there's the role you play as worship leader. Like, I mean, part of your responsibility is drawing those into worship on those Sunday mornings. And so, yeah, it's just as, important as what Chris or myself do, standing up and preaching God's word. There's something to that. And so for you, how have you kind of developed as a worship leader? And is there things that you're like, I don't like doing this, but I have to, and you've come to enjoy? Or are there things that like how is the position now a year in? How has it shifted and become something that's, like you said, very fulfilling? Yeah. But obviously there's going to be like the challenges behind the scenes that you've had to grow in and whatnot.
Right. So I feel like in the past, when I had to be on for a Sunday morning, when I wasn't, before I was in this position, when I, led at other churches and stuff, it was like those early Sunday mornings they're kind of rough sometimes. And they still are now, but I feel like my attitude has just shifted. And I think that's like a total God thing, like working on my heart where, when I feel like I catch myself more, like if I have like a negative thought, like, oh, I don't want to, I don't feel like doing this. It kind of switches to like, no, I get to do this. Like that, we talk about that a lot, that like I have to versus I get to. And I don't know, I feel like my perspective has changed where it's like, how cool is it that I get to do this for my job? And I remember, I think one of the first Sundays after I had accepted the position, I just had that like realization, like, I love doing this, and like how amazing is it that this is what I get to do and I get paid to do it. Like it's pretty awesome. So yeah, I feel like my just kind of that heart and mind attitude has just shifted without me really like realizing it or really working on it like consciously. I think it's just that God thing of like changing my heart and just giving me that positive mindset of like I get to do this, I get to serve him in that way. And
so cool.
So
cool.
That is cool, and that's something like we do strive for that. We talk about that a lot here. There's a lot of things about vocational ministry that would feel a have to mentality, but to know that we get to do so many of these things is super cool.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I love that you continue to connect your own personal worship with your relationship with Jesus beyond the vocation of it, because I think that's what shows. And while we get tons of feedback on how talented you are, I get just as much, if maybe not more, feedback on the spirit you present from stage. That you just present this heart that is genuinely worshiping you, God, and bringing us with you, and that's beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's definitely something like I think when you do something that is kind of like, I don't want to say it's performance driven, but it is kind of like I want to do what I do well. But I never want it to be like, I don't want it to seem like I'm doing a performance, Sure. And I've struggled like to be vulnerable. Like I've struggled with pride, like in what I do. And I feel like I don't as much anymore, which another God thing that just kind of happened without me realizing it. But yeah, it's like, it's easy to fall into that. I feel like when you're doing something in this position. And so, but I never want it to be that way. So that means a lot to me to know like, that's not what comes off. Yeah. And that's just, I mean, it really is just the Holy Spirit, just like using me and working through me. Like when people, when I hear those kinds of comments, it's like, man, like it's really nothing that I'm doing. Like it's really just God using me. And so, I hope that, that's what people see.
Yeah. So it's a constant prayer of mine going into like preaching on a Sunday or preparing it, is that I would love God more than I love the stage. And that would be evident.
Yeah.
Right. That would be part of it. 'Cause I think and Chris and I have talked often on this podcast about those who've maybe fallen away, or sometimes the struggle of ministry is that if you're talented, like it's really easy to just kind of do it and mail it in and search for the praise and the good jobs. But it's like, how many times have we gotten off stage and been like, man, I probably should never do that again.
Yeah.
And then that's the week someone's like, man, that changed my life. And you're like, okay, God changed your life. Like that's the win. Like it's always those reminders, like he really doesn't need us.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny that you say that, because I feel like there have been a couple times like in the last few months where it's been a Sunday and it's all like the service is over and I'm just like, yeah, that was kind of rough. Like that just did not really go well. And then I get, people saying, oh, that was great. And it's just funny. Like it's always those weeks where you feel like I just did not do well. And then, but it still ends up being like a worshipful experience, or people, God speaks to people through that, like when if you're speaking. And so, it's cool how God uses that too. And you're right. Just shows us like, he doesn't actually need us. So
we're just the vessel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have that same thought, and I don't know what goes through y'all's head before you take the stage, but we all do things in the spotlight, and I'm never backstage like doing the pump me up. I'm like, you got this. Come on, you
flexing
got
in
this.
the mirror.
Yeah, we have a mirror backstage, right? So I'm not back there like, you're the man. You're the man. You're the man. I don't know if some guys do that or not. But I have this prayer that I've just always said right before I go on stage for the last, 20 years, preaching wherever I preach, all right, okay, God, your word's not mine, your name not mine. That's the goal. That's the goal. And that's the goal of really anything any of us do. Is we're not here to promote ourselves. We're not here to promote Bayview Church above other things. I mean, it's about Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's the only name that when it's all said and done, that's going to last. There's not going to be a Bayview Church section of heaven. There's not going to be a billboard of like, hey, well done, baby. No, there's one name under heaven, right? There's one name. And that's why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good.
Definitely.
So good.
Well, we are super appreciative of you being here with us today, Paige. And it's been great just get to hear a little bit of your heart and your story. Thank you to all of you for being with us each and every week. We just we value your time and look forward to this moment with you each week. If you have not clicked the subscribe button, you can do that at the bottom of whatever platform you're listening on. And that way you never miss an episode. Even an episode where I've got a head cold and I'm hacking and gagging all over the microphone. There's going to be a lot of post-production. We don't do any post-production. We're going to have to do post-production on this episode because I'm a mess. I apologize. I thought I had it under control.
It happens.
Oh, good grief. So, hey, we love you guys. Appreciate you being with us. This is Andrew. This is Chris. Thank you, Paige, for being with us right here on the Bayview Podcast. And we'll see you next time around.